So let's get started.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go to theta360.com. I'm going to have a link in the description, and you're going to want to scroll down and you're going to choose the live streaming app, whether you have a 32-bit version. Version of Windows or to download administrator. At this point, you'll notice
simultaneously push the power button and the video/camera button here at the same time, and you'll notice that the live streaming
The Theta V has now dropped, and everyone wants to know, is this camera going to be as groundbreaking as the Theta S was when it first came out? There's been a lot of mixed reactions to the Theta V. Some people hate it, some people love it. So in this video, I'm going to set the record straight about whether you should buy the Theta V and whether it does offer enough to justify paying more than the average 360 camera. The camera design is a very familiar one. Look, it's basically identical to the last Theta. The only difference is the previous Theta is covered in rubber. This one has more of a metallic finish, and they weigh roughly the same. The design is basically the same other than the bottom. You can see there is an audio jack on the bottom of the V, whereas there wasn't with the Theta S. Overall, I like the design a lot. The only thing it's missing is a replaceable battery and a replaceable SD card. This does not have a replaceable SD card. This is one of the biggest flaws of the Theta V, I'm going to tell you up front. And oh shit, I gotta catch a flight. When I released my very first Theta V video, the biggest complaint I got from you guys was about the storage and the fact that it can only record 19 gigabytes. Yeah, that's a pretty big thing, and after having tested it for about 3 or 4 weeks now, I can say that for me personally it actually is manageable. This means you can get about 60 minutes or so of video, not continuous. The max recording time is about 25 minutes from my experiments so far, but there is actually a way around this. Firstly, I'll say that if you're recording for a really long time, like if you want to record for 3 or 4 hours, then the Theta V probably isn't for you. If you consider yourself more of a 360 photographer than a 360 video shooter, then this definitely won't be an issue because you can store about 2,000 360 photos on the 19 gigabyte SD card, so you've got nothing to worry about. It's more for video shooters that want to shoot for a long time. Now let's talk photo resolution. This is something that a lot of people have been disappointed with because unfortunately they haven't upped the resolution since the Theta S. To be honest, I don't mind this so much because I know the look of the Theta S and the Theta V is superior to the vast majority of cameras. So while you mightn't get as much resolution as some of its competitors, you're going to get the best dynamic range, the best stitching, and a number of other factors that make this a superior 360 photo camera. So why'd they call it the Theta V, I hear you asking, and not the Theta T or the Theta U? Well, my theory is it's Theta V for video. This is an exceptional 360 video camera and among the best options out there right now. So my theory is it's Theta Video. The Theta V most certainly is not waterproof, so keep it away from water. Unfortunately, I killed 4 Theta S's in my time, and the very first one was when I was at Bondi Beach. I took it for a swim. I thought I could get my arm up high, and I snapped an awesome tiny planet, but then a wave came and crashed over it, and bye-bye Theta S. However, good news for you underwater photographers, there is an underwater housing. It's called TW1, and it's $200. Look, it is not the cheapest underwater housing at all. So only if you're a hardcore underwater photographer, you might want to consider it. So the options there, $200. With the Theta V, the red dot of doom has returned. With the Theta S, you would get a very distinct red lens flare on either side of your lenses whenever you're shooting in strong sunlight. Well, because the design of the Theta V is basically exactly the same, it returns with the Theta V. I've noticed it has been maybe a little bit better. However, this is something you will need to keep in mind when you're shooting outside. You're going to get lens flares. Personally, I edit them out in Snapseed because I mainly shoot tiny planets. It's very easy to use the healing function to get rid of them. However, if you're shooting video, it's not so easy. So this is something you must be mindful of. The number one complaint I got when I released my Theta V test footage video was about chromatic aberration. Unfortunately, whenever you put the Theta V in strong sunlight and you have any prominent details in the highlights of the image or video, wherever the sun is, you will get a purple outline. So this is something to be mindful of. You can remove it. However, for me, I just don't really care about chromatic aberration. For me, if the content is good, people will forgive you for chromatic aberration.
One of my favorite features of the Theta V is called spatial audio. The Theta V has 4 microphones, one on each side, and it captures sound in every direction. It's essentially like 360 sound. So as you pan around, you will notice that the frequencies change. I get louder, I get quieter, the sea gets louder, the sea gets quieter. This is super cool. It means you don't need to record sound externally to get 360 audio. Awesome feature of the Theta V.
This is the Theta V when shooting handheld. While it does have improved stabilization, it has basic inbuilt stabilization. It's not 6-axis. And 6-axis has been something that's amazed me about other cameras like the Verb, the Xiaomi, and the Insta360 One. So it doesn't really compare for handheld shots. One thing that is cool is you can tilt the camera. So now I'm holding it directly horizontal, whereas before it was vertical, and it automatically levels. That's cool. It's not 6-axis, but it's something. There are several different shooting modes. If you go into your options, we have off, noise reduction, DR compensation, and HDR rendering. I would strongly suggest trying DR compensation or HDR rendering if you can set up your camera on a tripod, because HDR is an incredible tool for getting a lot more dynamic range in your photos, especially when you have strong contrast like we have now. We've got the sun which is beaming overhead, creating a really harsh light on everything, yet we do have shadows of everything that creates a shadow. So you want that to not be too contrasty. So let's try our HDR setting. So we'll take a photo, doing that wirelessly. And so it's essentially taking 3 photos within the camera. It then combines them all together. Instantly I can download that. So here we have our normal photo. You'll see that the shadows are really strong and that sun is taking up a lot of the sky. And next we'll go to DR compensation. So this is before, this is DR compensation. That's 1 level better. The sun's handled really well. We're seeing more details in the shadows there. Now let's have a look at the HDR. Look at that sun. It's handled so well. It's just a tiny little spot in the sky. You can barely even notice it. And look at those shadows. We're seeing details in the wooden planks there. This is really incredible for such harsh light to be lit so evenly using this HDR mode. This is amazing, and I try my best to shoot in HDR in all situations if I can, because it's just going to enhance your general dynamic range and means everything will be exposed more evenly. However, you will want to watch out for movement. If you're moving around a lot, if you're shooting handheld, it might end up a little bit blurry, so you will want to use it selectively. However, if you can use HDR, you're going to get vastly better results. The next awesome feature of the Theta V is the stitching. Because the camera body is so thin, there is barely any stitching error. I can stand about here or closer, and I'm not going to get my face cut off, and that's always a good thing. So I'm going to test it out right now and just see just how good it is. That's good stitching. One of the biggest areas that the Theta has improved since the last version is its video. This is now a 4K 360 video camera. And yeah, look, they were super late to the game. Basically every other camera shoots 4K by now, and before they were doing 1920 by 960, but now they have entered the 4K game and they've gone straight, in my opinion, to the top, because the dynamic range and the sharpness and so many qualities about the video I think are superior to the other 4K cameras, so this is a massive contender in the 4K game. The camera does do live streaming, however at the moment it's only via wired connection. They are working on a wireless solution. It's not ready just yet. Supposedly it's going to be ready in the next 1 to 2 months. However, I like to buy a 360 camera based on the specs that are released when the camera is released. Yes, I'm sure they're going to add lots of more cool things to it, but it's not ready just yet. So if you're a big live streamer, you might want to consider other options, knowing that that is coming very soon. Another thing I love is now with the Theta V, when you upload to your phone, the transfer speeds are lightning fast. It is literally more than 10 times faster than it was before with the Theta S. I downloaded some footage earlier and I downloaded a gigabyte, I'm going to say in 30 seconds. How cool is that? That's going to speed up the workflow significantly, and this is the fastest transfer speeds I've seen with any 360 camera. Theta V has excellent compatibility. It's compatible with both iPhone and Android. You will need one of the more recent versions of iPhones or Androids. Basically anything that can already shoot 4K video is probably going to be able to handle 360 4K. With an f2.0 aperture, the Theta V is one of the better performing 360 cameras in low light. I've compared it to a few others and it's come out the best. It does low light and also really low light well without signs of really strong